Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon wound pickups.
Hey, this is me, Todd Novak. We are super thrilled that you are listening to our show, the Guitar Knobs podcast, in our 4th year. Yay. I can't hear from all the applause. We're going to be doing some fun stuff when it comes to, it's actually coming really fast.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really fast.
Yeah.
In April. But tonight, what do we do on the show? What are we going to do tonight on the show, Jared?
We are going to talk about the person on the line right now.
That's brilliant. Tony, what do we normally do on the show?
So in general, we like to talk about boutique gear. Gear in general, but specifically boutique gear and the builders of said gear. And that can include things like guitars and amps and pedals and accessories like pickups and pick guards. I know a guy that does pick guards too.
Yeah,
I
how
like
about
him.
that?
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
I like him when he shows up to the podcast.
Yeah.
I like 101s too when we learn good stuff.
Yeah, we just had one of those.
But anyhow, we like to talk. In this case, we have a very, very good builder on our show.
Yes, that's right.
And not only a builder of guitars, but of other things too, which we will get into later.
Yes. Who are you on the line right now, Mr. Man?
Joe Balaguer of Balaguer Guitars.
All right. Yes. Joe Balaguer of Balaguer Guitars, recommended to us by not more than one people.
Yes.
More than one people. Yes. And obviously, if you take time to go check him out, you will see, wow, okay, he's building a lot of great stuff, and a lot of people are playing that stuff. Some very talented people. Where, by the way, can people go to find what you're doing right now on the internets, Joe?
All the normal social outlets. Instagram, it's just Balaguer Guitars, same as Facebook, and just BalaguerGuitars.com. So any of those.
Awesome. Beautiful. Lovely. All right, we're going to get this thing going. We got a couple of announcements to handle, some information to share, and then we're going to get on with what's going on in our music week, which we're very excited to get to. So, Joe, hang on tight. We're going to get through some stuff here. We want to say thank you to Rode Mics for providing the Rodecaster Pro, our beautiful little mothership here, the black thing with all the colors and
It's got
buttons
lights
and whatnots and
sound effects.
That's right. If you are thinking about starting your own podcast or needing to upgrade your current podcast or just want to record some stuff in your home or in your studio, that's cool. This is a great way to do it, and it's got 4 mic inputs and levels for everything and all kinds of great little tricks and gadgets.
Well, the
and
cool thing
stuff.
about this, too, is it gives you the ability, as we're doing today, to connect to someone remotely.
Absolutely. You can do that on the phone, too.
On either by phone or by the internet.
And Bluetooth and all kinds of stuff.
It's a very well thought out piece of equipment.
Extremely good piece of gear. And also for the Procaster mic, which we use
Every day.
We're using right now.
We use them.
We use them all the time.
They got articulating arms.
That's correct.
They got
moving
big
mine right
fuzzy
now. Pop guards, yeah. It's pretty handy dandy. So thank you to Rode Mics for providing that to us. Also, I got a great email exchange with this fella, Joey Callio. He is a singer-songwriter, guitar player, bass player, founding member of 7 Horse and Dada. Dada they had a hit back in the, do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Disneyland. Yeah.
Yes.
And I won't sing it because then it's going to, I won't. I'm not going to sing it, but just go check it out. It's on Spotify.
I won't leave then.
Yeah. So anyways, he says, hey, love your podcast. I'm mostly playing guitar in 7 Horse these days, which makes listening to your podcast extremely entertaining and informative. 7 Horse, just a little bit about that real quick. They've got a song called Meth Lab Zoso Sticker, which is a great title. And that was featured in Wolf of Wall Street. So he's got a couple of big fat one.
He's got some shackles
underneath it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so he says, I travel between Seattle and LA quite a lot. And when I'm on the plane, Guitar Knobs has become my go-to podcast. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
thank you. We
Welcome
appreciate that.
to the family, my friend.
So far, I have purchased 2 pedals that he has subsequently tracked with because of the show, and as well started using the 3 Monkey solderless cables. Doggone it!
Solder.
Pretend there's no L's.
I
Just
know
say
you tell me that
solder.
every time. It's just a thing. I can't. My tongue won't make
Solder.
it.
Todd.
So, anyways, he uses those cables. I use those cables. Those are good cables. Go check out 3 Monkeys. And anyway, so those 2 pedals are the Wrought Iron Effects Orcrist.
Right.
That's the one with the sword that lights up.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And the Beatronics Royal Jelly.
Oh,
That is
Yep.
that is a lovely
I know
pedal.
someone who has that.
there's a
Yeah,
guy at the
Jared's
table
got
here.
It's on my board.
I'm going to get it someday. All right. So anyways, he offered his 4 on the floor, and here it is. The Exotic EP Boost.
Thank you.
It's that pedal is just magic.
It is.
He says it's simple, versatile, essential first gain stage, pretty much always on. It just makes your overall tone better. And interestingly enough, I shifted mine from first gain stage to third, and it sounds awesome. So try that if you have one. Mix it up, man. Put it elsewheres. Also, the Jackson Amps Broken Arrow. He says the Broken Arrow is a super versatile and seems to stack well. It has 2 gain stages built in. One side provides a clone-like boost, and the other side has a nastier overdrive. The Broken Arrow is more transparent, so for a guy that uses a lot of different guitars, the Broken Arrow is a very good choice. Number 3 is the Strymon El Capistan. Yep, well, there's another one. Always sounds right. Very versatile. Been getting into the Donner Prince Booner lately. I'm not really sure what that is. And that must be like a setting on there. But if I'm just going to have one delay, it's got to be the El Capistan. And then lastly, the Strymon Flint. Great reverb, great tremolo. Again, helpful in a limited pedal situation. That's a pretty solid board. You can do just about anything with that, with those 4 pedals.
Oh, I would say so.
Amazing. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Joe Callio, for just a great email exchange and for reaching out and sharing what's going on in your guitar world. And best of luck to you and your band. Gentlemen, we need to find out what's going on in the music world this week. Tony, you're going to lead us off, and then we're going to go to our man Joe Balaguer on the phone.
Okay. So, yeah, this is actually kind of cool, and it's actually a lesson learned. Okay. So, I don't know, a handful of episodes ago, we talked about the mid-60s Moserite combo that I picked up, neck body.
Oh, right.
And I was trying, and this is the lesson learned. I was trying to use so-called replica parts for like the bridge and the tailpiece, and it was missing. It had the wrong nut on it. So I got everything together, and the so-called replica bridge. If anyone out there is familiar with Moserites, the necks are very narrow, and the string spacing is very narrow. So
Jared's giving a big thumbs down on that right now.
yeah,
But he's got hands twice the size of a normal
He's got
human.
monkey paws. But so I had the bridge. I mean, it's actually, looks-wise, was a pretty good replica, except that it had 55 millimeter spacing E to E, and a Moserite needs about 50 millimeters, or sometimes less. So I was just not happy. I mean, by the time the strings got to the last fret, I mean, they were riding off the edge of the fretboard. Terrible stuff. So I just kept looking and trying to find things, trying to find, used ones, whatever. And then I remembered that a friend of mine, Bob Shade, who owns Hallmark Guitars, always seems to have Moserite parts. He bought a bunch of stuff from one of the guys, I guess, that used to work for Moserite. So I contacted him. He actually had a couple of the new old stock bridges from the 60s on eBay, I think. So I contacted him, and he gave me the buddy deal on the bridge. And he also had the nut. If the Moserites have a metal nut that is more of a string guide, but it looks cool
Okay.
as opposed to like a bone nut kind of thing. So he had one of those. So I got the right parts. They came in the other day. I put everything back in, and it's just like, boom. It just plays incredibly well. I mean, so the lesson learned is sometimes you got to spend a little dough to get something that works best for a particular instrument.
Right.
That was my lesson.
All right. Lesson learned. Joe, what is going on in your music world this week?
Really just recovering from the Winter NAMM show last month, and just trying to, kind of keep my head above water at the shop. But other than that, just really digging. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of He Is Legend, but I've been really rocking that album a lot lately this week in the shop. So it's kind of what's been going on with me.
Awesome. Jared?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Seeing as you're the only guy aside from Todd that hasn't talked yet.
Yeah.
Well, so I got some really cool things coming up in the world. Number one, I confirmed a table for the Summer NAMM. So
There he is.
put it on your calendar, July 9th through the July 11th. You're going to go to Nashville and stop by Brandon Wan Pickups booth.
Yeah. I'm hoping to be there too.
Yeah, and I am going to showcase what I finally figured out how to make noiseless Jazzmaster pickups.
That's big.
Very big, and they sound like Jazzmaster pickups, which is pretty awesome. So check that out. As far as what's been going on in my guitar world, it's kind of a shop related thing. It's not really pickups, but I have a laser in my shop that I use for a lot of different things.
Right. Disco.
Exactly.
Pants
Disco.
off, dance off.
Do you do laser light shows?
I do. And I cut foam for packaging. And I cut vulcanized fiber for pickup parts or whatever to create stuff or for repairs. And my laser tube blew up yesterday.
Boy.
And I was like, dang, got it. And I thought, wait a minute. I have mine from the last laser that caught on fire. So I had another laser tube, and it was the same kind. So it's a cheap K40 laser, in case anybody's wondering. The one from China. And but it doesn't have the coronavirus on it because I've had it. It's been in country for a while, so don't worry.
That's good. I was I'm sitting
Anyway,
awfully close.
So
Tony, we got to keep trying.
right. So today I replaced the laser tube, and it worked. It was working awesome, like way better than it did before.
He just said it was working.
Was that a past tense? Or
I don't know.
Is it continuing to work, or is there more to the story?
There's more to the story.
Oh.
So I think I was putting too much of a load on this thing because I was giving it long jobs to do, and it blew up today. So
Sounds like you need a new machine.
Yeah.
I do.
That's an
I do.
old machine too.
I'm on top of that. I got my good buddy Wolf from Wolf Tone Pickups. He's sending me his old K40 laser.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
It's the same thing, but hopefully his doesn't blow up the tubes.
All right.
And
More to come on that.
yeah,
Do you know what the
probably.
definition of insanity is? If
Uh,
you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
I'm not going to do that job like that anymore. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I know what not to do now. Thank you.
Okay.
But I thought that was just kind of a cool story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How about putting some PVC plastic in there?
I could do that.
Yeah. All right.
Do you know what happens when you combine a laser with PVC plastic?
You die?
It creates chlorine gas.
Oh
Yay.
my. No, don't do that, everybody.
Yes.
Sheesh.
That's
Hope
serious.
That's like a sticker on the thing or
serious
something.
stuff.
Yeah, do not do that.
So what's up with you, Todd?
Well, thank you, Jared. I received in the mail today. I used one of my Christmas gift card things that one of my uncle sent me, and
Rich uncle.
yeah, well, he's an uncle. So I hit my our friends up at Sweetwater and finally pulled the trigger on a big shot, a radial big shot ABY. I have been looking at all the different ABYs, watching all the videos and why this and why not that and what to look for and everything, and I just settled on this one. I was pleasantly surprised when it arrived in the mail. This thing is heavy. For whatever reason, when you look at it online, maybe it's because of the graphics, it looks like it's going to be really just sort of a commercial grade, kind of like not commercial grade, but consumer grade, just kind of thin box.
Home electronics.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
And it is not. That's
hefty,
very solid pedal.
I have one very similar to this at home. It's just the best thing in the world.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to start combining amps and stuff because I just put up an IGTV post about this where we walk through all of the different features and all that stuff. So
Nice.
Yeah, really cool. So thank you, Sweetwater, for sending that my way.
Yeah, the Radial makes some really interesting, maybe not so much effects pedals, but definitely utility pedals.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I mean, it's a pedal. It's not. This is supposed to go on your board. It's got foot switches. That's what it's. It's not meant for just like sitting on top of a box somewhere.
Yeah.
You can do that, but. So, anyways, yeah, very cool.
Nice.
And who knows? I may end up making it out, starting to gig with 2 different amps. So, giddy
Nice.
up, thicken up my sound. Yeah, yeah. I hate that. I don't even know why I did that.
Oh, that's Scott Stapp, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, well, okay, Joe,
Yes,
are you
sir.
exhausted yet?
Not at all. So going back to the ABY box,
Yeah.
our buddy Paul over at PLX Effects built me one, I think it was like last year, and it totally changed the way that I dial in my tone, being able to kind of have 2 amps
Really?
going through. Oh, yeah, man. And it was just something that he built himself, and he texted me, hey, do you want one of these? I was like, yes. Because I was just, I never thought of just running both of my, like 2 of my amps at the same time. I just would always just unplug one and plug into the next or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
What amps are you running?
Well, it depends. In our shop, we have a small showroom that I have about 5 or 6 tube heads and then a bunch of pedal boards and modelers and a whole bunch of stuff. But I kind of gravitate towards a Mesa Boogie Triple Crown 50 watt head and a Mesa Boogie triple rectifier.
That's a lot of boogie.
For the heavy stuff. But yeah,
Not for jazz.
it's definitely a wall of sound for sure when you're running those 2 together. But that's kind of my
That's my
go-to.
shoegaze rig.
Right? Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely a Mesa guy. I mean, I love everything, but
That's cool.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to check mine out. I remember hearing early on when I was like learning about guitar stuff. I for whatever reason remember hearing that Mick Mars would have like, I could have sworn I remember the number 12, like 12 completely different amps, like garbage amps, awesome amps, old amps, new amps, like just this wall of crazy ampness. Which that sounds awesome, but highly impractical.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not.
On this pedal board, I've got 7 ABYs. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, hey, Joe, we need to find out something right now.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
All right, Joe Balaguer, give us your 4 on the floor.
Sure. So as far as overdrive and distortion goes, I really have been digging this pedal called the Riff Child. My buddy Kurt Ballou, he builds these in Massachusetts under his company. It's called God City Instruments. He also plays in a band called Converge. But it's kind of like his take on, I can't remember the exact pedals it's inspired from, but I know it's inspired by like a Boss overdrive and like a boost in one. But what I use it for is to just push the tube amp I'm using slightly. So that's definitely one. That's, you have a boost function, you have a gain knob, and you have a high and low knob. It's pretty simple. It's just a 4-knob overdrive pedal. And the aesthetics of it's really cool. If you guys ever check it out, it's like almost looks like an 80s inspired, like, I don't know, like hair metal type of pedal. But anyway, that's definitely one for sure. That's going to be on my board for a while. The next thing would be my reverb, which is it's an Epigaze Audio Ascension reverb. So Epigaze Audio are friends of mine. This pedal has 2 functions. It has 3 different reverb modes. So it has a hall type of reverb, a shimmer with like some cool artifacts behind the reverb, and a tremolo reverb. And then it has a separate button on the pedal for an underlying synth pad. And then the third button on the pedal controls the key that pad is in, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's a fade knob on the side of the pedal that you can fade in how much of the pad you want in your mix. Usually I have that all the way up, and I'll use that to kind of, either solo over or just create like more ambient noise if I'm doing chords or something. So that is definitely a pedal you guys should check out, because you can throw
awesome.
Yeah, you can throw that in the loop, or you can also there's like a send and return on it, and then there's also an in and out. So there's different routing options you can do with it. But the main 3 knobs for the reverb side, I think there's a mix, and then there's like a height and ethos, which I think just controls the way the reverb reverberates depending on what mode you're in, and just the I think that the trail. I can't remember exactly what those knobs do per se. I just kind of tweak as to I see fit, but
Sure.
those 2 for sure. And then the other 2 aren't as exciting, but it's definitely staple pedals on my boards. It's just a mini Polytune mini Polytune tuner, and then a TC Electronics Century gate, just the gate, like my high gain amps that I run the board through. So those 4 pedals kind of cover all the stuff that I do, at least.
Well, all right. That's very sexy.
Especially the tuner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
when you find a good one, that's it.
Well,
Yeah.
that one in particular, I think, is pretty.
A tuner's like a wedding ring, man. You know what I mean?
It is.
Kind of. It's like, don't screw with my tuner. That's the one. I found
tuner's-
one that works.
Tuner's more like your wife. It gets you going.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
No.
Straightens
boy.
you out. That's what it
Oh,
does.
boy.
Doesn't it?
Does your wife tell you if you're in tune?
Yeah.
Yes. She tells me when I'm out of tune more so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those. I especially like
Sure.
that Epigaze. What an interesting name too. Epigaze. I'm assuming it has to do with like epic shoegaze. Maybe?
Honestly, I'm not even sure what it stands for, but just to throw one other thing, since it's only 4 pedals, but the other pedal I do have on the board all the time is the PLX Bion Boost, because that just tightens everything up. But if I'm limited to 4 pedals, those are the 4 pedals I would choose.
Well, we can in the
In lieu
yes
of the tuner. We'll
in
accept.
lieu of the tuner. We'll,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
go with that one. So tell us a little bit more about that pedal real quick. The PLX.
Yeah, so the Bion Boost, and you guys know Paul. The Bion Boost is just, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's his take on a Range Master, but I feel like that's kind of what he was going for. And it's just a 1-knot boost, so it really just tightens up everything that you kind of want to be tightened up with, an overdriven amp. So I think the newer version has like a tone and a gain knob. There's just 1 boost knob, and usually I just run everything at 12 o'clock and just kind of mess around with the gain knob to see how it reacts with whatever amp I'm putting it in front of. So I kind of use it as like how you would use like a Range Master boost or like a clean boost to just tighten up a dirty amp. But
Awesome. Well, and you
Yeah.
know who it's built by, which is, I think,
Yep.
It's the more you get into this, the more that matters. We were sitting at dinner after our last episode, and we were talking about pedals and stuff, and I had given one to John Esterly to check out, and he looked at it and he looks on the back, and it says # 001, and his eyes just got really big, and it was like, that's cool, right? And we know who made it, and it was like the first one, and so it gets into this element of, it isn't just a pedal. It's, the person who made it. It's, if you got low number, it's kind of like having a first edition book or something. It's kind of cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or a specific color series that they've done or something. That the collectability factor is really fun and interesting in the pedal world. But let's talk about guitars, man.
Yeah.
So how'd you come up with that name?
He wanted the most difficult name to pronounce.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So just really quick, your guitars that you are making, these are all totally original designs, right? Or what seems to be.
Yeah. So the some of the models are obviously taking inspiration from different J and T and other style body shapes, but I tend to make them slightly more offset, different pickguard shapes, different dimensions. I contour the heel instead of doing a block heel, and just kind of make them a little bit more modern, because obviously I pull inspiration from the guitars I grew up playing, but
Sure.
I try and do my own twist on them. But yeah.
Yeah, something that you just said out there, which was you try to make them more modern. It seems as though, especially when you look at your artist list and stuff, there is a bend towards the more, not necessarily heavy, just more modern style of playing. And what I found interesting about your guitars is that whenever you start to think about that kind of music or heavier music or highly technical music, you kind of say, okay, well, that guitar is going to look like this. I know exactly what kind of shredder guitar this is going to look like, or I know what kind of extreme looking guitar this is going to look like. One thing that I really appreciate about your guitars, and we'll get into, how you've come up with a lot of this, is that they don't have to feel like that. You can tell that they're inspired, but you've taken them further. So I think they'll be in style a lot longer, if I can say that, because I think we all know some of those guitars that I'm talking about, like you can get for just about nothing these days when things fall out of fashion. Anyways, I mean that's a purely aesthetic thing. Not purely, but to a degree, that's a very aesthetic thing. But yeah, I really appreciate that you've found a nice area to offer something that has a modern flavor, but that is appealing to many.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, man.
Cool. Well, and everybody, that's it. And we're going to go out on a high note.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Yes. Let's follow Tony's lead here. Tony?
Yes. So I'm assuming that in the beginning, you built everything yourself.
Yep.
And now it looks like you have some folks helping you out, of course. And then you also have a line that is made primarily overseas, but I'm guessing you bring those in and tweak them a little bit and allow people to customize things. So let's go back to when you first started making your own instruments.
Sure. Yeah. So I went to Lutheran school in 2009, out in California at this place called the Guitar Craft Academy. It's part of Nations Institute in Hollywood, California. So I went out there in 2009, learned how to build guitars. Some of the teachers were working from, Fender, GNL, a bunch of places. Ron Thorne taught us inlaying. And after that, I just kind of started working out of a repair shop, doing restorations and repair stuff. and worked for a few other builders over the years, but didn't actually start building my own guitars under my own brand name until 2014. So over the years, I built guitars for buddies and mainly did repair and restoration work up until 2014. So in 2014, I was living in California in Sherman Oaks in the Valley, and I built what's now called the Woodman model, which is like my take on a modernized like Telly style shape for a guy, Bo Burchell, who plays in this band Seosin, and he was actually my first customer and also my first artist at the same time. And that was the first actual like Balaguer guitar, I guess, officially that I built when I lived in California, and then I moved back to Pennsylvania a few years ago. So I built a handful of those guitars. Everything was done by hand, and it was, painstakingly long because it was just me. But over the years, going to the NAMM show, connecting with different suppliers through, hardware companies and talking to other luthiers and guitar builders in the industry, I was able to partner with a really small South Korean shop. And that allowed me to really open up, the doors to, offering more affordable guitars to people that didn't want to, spend upwards of $2,000-$3,000 on a custom guitar, and also didn't want to wait the long time it took me to build them.
It's kind of shocking how affordable your line is, the standard line. It's well under what most guitars. I had to double take. I said, "Wait, did I miss a comma or what in here?" But those are very accessible for the average person. I'm not going to say what you thought I was going to say.
Well, the standard series is brand new for us at the NAMM show, actually, and those are built in China at the same factory that builds like Dingwall basses and Gretsch guitars. So those are brand new for us, and those are at that lower price point, like the $699, $799. But the South Korean stuff sits like right in the middle, like between $899 to like $1,400,
right?
Type of deal. But yeah, that's always kind of been my thing, is trying to stay true to our quality standards and our like design philosophy, and using proper hardware and pickups that we make and everything, but offering various product lines that kind of hit different price points for people that, like I said before, don't want to spend a ton on their first guitar, or maybe they need a guitar that they don't mind touring with and beating up or what have you.
Well, we've mentioned this when other builders have sort of entry-level lines. It's a great way for people who have an affinity for your brand or for your design to be able to get into that brand and still feel part of that brand.
Sure.
That's why we do those. That's why we buy those things that aren't just the same old factory whatevers. Is because that we want that signature. We want that. We know we have an affinity to that brand, or we know somebody that we really like who plays that brand, and want to kind of be like, hey, I'm like him or whatever, or her or whatever. So when you started doing that, I think something that I always wonder about when someone makes a switch to, or at least a transition to, I'm building everything. And I talk a bit with Chase about this all the time, because he's like craftsman, and like it is difficult for him mentally even to give up one single thing from his guitar build, let alone the entire guitar build. So from someone who is building each of these things, one at a time by your own hands, to then migrate that into you are creating a design and you're managing that design. Can you tell us a little bit about how that might have gone?
Sure. So when I first kind of delved into doing any kind of like overseas manufacturing, I went through probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 prototypes of just one model with the first Korean shop that I was working with. And this Korean shop builds a lot of great guitars, Reverend and a whole bunch of others. And it was one of those things where we just weren't seeing the product, like the end product that we wanted. It wasn't representing exactly what I envisioned. So we ended up moving from them and working with this smaller shop. And we've been with them ever since for the past 4.5, 5 years almost now. And it really it takes time. There's a lot of prototyping that needs to happen. There's a lot of back and forth communication. I mean, I speak to my team in Korea every single day, multiple times a day, usually late at night because they're 8:30 or my 8:30 p.m. is their 8:30 in the morning. So I tend to chat with them, later at night. But anyway, it is tough. I feel like it takes a certain type of business owner, especially if you're like a product designer or a luthier or craftsman of anything. You need to be comfortable with letting go of the reins a little bit and taking a risk and seeing if it's something that is worthwhile, because just, sending your designs overseas, getting something manufactured, getting a prototype, it doesn't mean you need to put it into production. And I had to keep reminding myself that, because there were certain instances where I was like, oh man, like I don't want to, put all my eggs in this basket, because it is a venture that costs, a considerable amount of money to get into. It's not like any builder can just find a factory and just kind of, you're off to the races building a bunch of guitars at a lower price point. There's definitely an investment involved. So you have to make sure it's the right move for the business. And it takes a while to learn the idiosyncrasies of overseas manufacturing. And it's been a learning experience for me. And I've just been lucky enough to team up with a shop that really understands like high quality and quality over quantity, where a lot of factories, not just in Korea, but in China and Indonesia, tend to kind of look at it differently and more focused on quantity. So I feel like my situation is a little different and is somewhat of an anomaly, because the shop that we work with in Korea, there's only 8 people. It's not a huge factory. Everything is very controlled. And it took time to get it to that point. So I think, I just kind of fell into it and got lucky and really just focus on the things that I thought mattered from the beginning. And that's just kind of where we're at now.
It sounds like it could be extremely daunting, especially at the beginning. How difficult was it to, I guess, wrap your head around going about finding that, and also, I know you mentioned the cost. When we had Pierre Salem on, that was part of the conversation. It was very interesting to hear his path. What was the biggest hurdle in your process so far?
I would say the biggest hurdle was when I was first getting involved in overseas manufacturing. I saw how the prototyping phase went. And then once you get past that point, it's like, okay, if you're working with a larger factory, which I did work with before I started partnering with this smaller shop that I've been with for years, they expect a certain quantity that you have to order.
Right.
And, if you don't have 20, 30, 40 grand in the bank, it's, it's something that you have to kind of be like, okay, well, do I want to invest in myself and go get a business loan or go crowdfund or, figure out how I can get these funds to grow the business and get these guitars in stock. That was probably the turning point for me to kind of realize, like, well, do I want to just, not go down this road and focus on continuing to build these USA built custom guitars, or do I want to kind of try and juggle both and see how things turn out? So that was definitely a turning point for me for sure. But I got lucky with, I launched a Indiegogo campaign when I first launched my business after I moved back to Pennsylvania from California, in lieu of, talking to this South Korean shop and getting these prototypes made. And I was able to raise, enough money to get the first order placed. And that just kind of snowballed from there. And the guitars were selling well, and we were able to place additional orders after that. And that's just kind of how it worked. I'm sure my story is a little different than maybe most people that go the more traditional route of getting like a large bank loan and everything. But I tried to be as conservative as possible with the funding. So
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I went about it.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot of interesting stories that we've run into. I'm thinking of Nick Greer of Greer.
Oh, I love Nick.
Yeah, and he shared some stuff which I guess I was surprised when he was sharing some of his, like, how he was doing his business operation, because I just figured that everybody just went and got bank loans or whatever, and then you off to the races. And hearing his story was, which, by the way, Nick, you swore to me twice you're going to come on the show now. So
I'm even wearing a shirt
I'm
today.
just saying, come on, bro.
I love Nick.
Yeah,
So he's such a good dude.
Great guy. He would even be greater standing with us if he would come on the show. But anyhow,
his booth was across from mine last year's Summer NAMM. And whenever we had a minute, we would shoot the breeze.
Yeah.
Such a great dude.
yeah. And by the way, if you ever are down there in the Nick Greer land over by his shop and you're just passing by and you want to say, hey, I want to go say hi to Big Nick, you can also stop in to see Baxendale Guitars.
Oh, is that the guys that do the harmonies and Ks?
Ks and all that stuff.
Shop tour is awesome. And that's episode 115, by the way.
115 seems like a lifetime ago.
It does. But anyways, let's talk about design.
Sure.
I think, is it safe to say that your flagship model is the Espada?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. What does that mean?
Espada is Spanish for sword.
Very cool. You didn't call it El Sword. That might have, determined the success or failure.
Right.
Right.
The sword. Spanish for the sword. So you've got some really interesting design decisions here. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Sure. So I just approach it from a standpoint of, obviously all the guitars have some type of vintage inspiration, whether it's the silhouette of the body shape, or the pickguard shape, or just the choices of appointments. But really, like, the overarching, I guess, design philosophy that I have is just trying to make things a bit more ergonomic and modern, for the modern day player. So, like, for me, growing up playing Fenders, Gibsons, the things I would change would be like changing the neck heel to be contoured instead of a block heel, or weight relieving certain aspects of the Les Paul, or doing a different angle on the headstock and doing a larger volute, straight string pull. There's just a lot of things that when I'm designing a new model or a new headstock shape or something, I'm always trying to think of, well, what can I improve on something I've already done or something that I've seen from guitars that I've played in the past growing up. So that's really like the overarching theme, is just trying to, put out a guitar that is an improved design, but still unique in its own way.
How about some of the hardware decisions that you've made?
Sure. So we use, Hipshot. We've used Mastery Trems. I try to gravitate towards hardware companies that are doing cool and innovative stuff and improving on designs that needed improvement. It's a love or hate thing, but we also use Evertune bridges, and so many guys that are studio musicians or even producers that own studios love those bridges. They take a huge hunk out of the wood, which is, you can make that argument all day if that affects the tone or not. And I'm not going to speak to that, but the bridge itself, the way the springs and levers react to each individual string, it's very cool piece of kit. So we try and just align ourselves with companies that are trying to push the envelope and improve, the instrument. But those are a few that we like to partner with, and pickups as well. Like, I love partnering with smaller pickup companies that are trying to do cool stuff, like Porter pickups and Lambertone, Lawler, all that kind of stuff as well. Fishman.
How about in terms of woods and things that you're using? Do you have like a preference that you use on almost all of the models, or is that kind of open to what the customer wants to use?
I definitely make suggestions, but one thing that we've been offering since almost the get-go is roasted maple for necks and fingerboards over regular maple. We still offer regular quarter sawn maple for necks, but that's something I adopted pretty early on in like 2014, 2015, just to, especially for the touring guitarist, having thermally modified wood that brings the moisture content down to like 2-3% instead of, the normal content that's in the wood. It definitely helps in the long run with humidity changes and fluctuations. So
that's an interesting take. We haven't heard that before.
Oh, really? It's surprising. But yeah, I think, working with roasted wood, some people call it torrefied, some people call it tempered. It's all the same thing. It's just cooked wood. I really like using that because I know the result every time. It's always a very stable, solid wood. But with body woods, I mean, it really depends on what the customer's going for. If I know someone wants to order a multi-scale 7-string and is tuning down to some crazy low tuning, and they want to do a mahogany neck and a mahogany body, I might steer them away and be like, hey, let's talk about this, and maybe let's do a swamp ash body and a 5-piece maple walnut neck or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely times where I step in, but I try and let the customer be as creative as possible.
And does that go for both the ones that you're building in the U.S. as well as the overseas models? I mean, are there some options, in terms of choosing woods on the overseas models?
Yeah. So we have 2 series that we do within the South Korean shop. There's the Select series, which is the production guitars that are built in small runs, usually 12 to 20 guitars. And then there's the Select custom guitars, still built in the same shop, but they're only built by 2 or 3 guys instead of 8 people.
Okay.
And those guitars, there's more options to choose from. And what's cool about the roasted maple is we actually source the Canadian hard rock maple. We drop ship it. And my production manager, John, works with a furniture supplier in Korea, and they roast the maple for us. So we can control the entire roasting process. And we're one of the only shops that I know of in Korea that does that. As far as the USA stuff, I just buy the roasted maple from either American Specialty Wood in Michigan or a few other suppliers. Mm-hmm. But that's a big part of the Korean guitars is the fact that we control a lot of the wood procurement and stabilization of it.
That's cool. Now, are you doing primarily bolt neck models, or do you do some set or neck throughs?
We do all 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the neck through stuff, we can do neck through basses or guitars. We usually use hard rock Canadian maple or roasted maple with walnut stringers. And then we do 2 graphite reinforcement rods on either side of the truss rod channel under the fingerboard. Yeah, we do set necks as well, in various woods and bolt-ons. Yep.
Okay. And are there some options in terms of like fingerboard materials?
Yeah.
I mean, so you can go rosewood, you can do maple, ebony.
Yeah, we offer ebony. We don't dye the ebony though, so it is streaky. But it's not Macassar ebony per se, but it's just it's pretty dark. It just has some brown streaks in it. We offer rosewood, Purple Heart, regular maple, roasted bird's eye maple.
That's excellent with potatoes, by the way.
Probably Palfaro.
And but the USA stuff that I do, the wood options are kind of endless because there's only certain stuff we can source and drop ship over to Korea that makes sense for us to offer. So we have like a smaller selection of woods for that. But for the USA stuff, I've sourced a bunch of different woods for those. So yeah, pretty much if it's available and it's a stable wood, I'm down to use it for sure.
Cool. In your U.S. production, I mean, in terms of the total guitars that you're producing, what percentage would you say is ones that you're actually making here in the U.S.?
Well, that's definitely increasing this year because up until I would say middle of last year, I was just building them when I could and then selling them when I finished them. I wasn't taking on any customer orders because I became so inundated with all of the Korean and other overseas stuff we were doing. It was greatly outweighing our USA production. And that was by my own doing. I closed the order books for the USA stuff and I said, listen, I'm just going to build guitars that I want to build creatively. And just when they're done, I will post them for sale or I'll email our dealers and see who wants to buy them. Because I didn't want to have a, 2-year wait list or something crazy because I was just accepting every order that came in. But this year we scaled production because for the last year I've been prototyping with a USA based CNC shop that was bigger than what we were using at the time before that. And we're going to be ramping that up. So we'll be able to do way more USA orders this year. So I'm pretty stoked on that. So
that's cool.
That's really what, I love doing. Don't get me wrong. I like running the business and doing the overseas stuff too, but that's, my passion is definitely building guitars.
So as you're ramping that up, can you tell us about maybe any new models or anything that you might be releasing, or are you working on new designs at all?
So there are a few models in the pipeline, but as far as the USA stuff is concerned, we're working on standardizing a few USA runs for some of our dealers, just to kind of test the waters with doing more of like a standardized USA built guitar that has maybe a few different finishes, all the same neck woods and fingerboard woods, almost like a USA production series, but on a very small scale. Talking about 4 to 8 guitars at a time. So that's something that's going to be new for us this year. But other than that, it's really just, kind of allowing some custom orders to come through that are commissioned by customers. And I'm really excited for that because, just before every order was so vastly different. Like I was working on this crazy baritone build and this other build had an aluminum neck, and they were just so vastly different every time that the build times would just get so long that I had to make a decision. But yeah, this year for sure, we're getting back to doing more of a standardized USA line and then allowing a few custom orders to come in every few months and working through those as they come through. But yeah.
You mentioned that most of your guitars are I think this can be said for just about any guitar made, but there is inspiration, far-reaching inspiration from classic designs and stuff. But when you just also mentioned you love building the guitars. That's your passion. So I'm curious, where do you draw inspiration, or what are things that when you say, oh my gosh, I love the idea of doing this, or that gives me a great idea. Like, can you, let us in on some of that?
Sure. I definitely pull inspiration from older guitars, whether it's the aesthetics or the pickup options. And that's kind of what led me to finding out about Lambertone pickups and Brian at Porter Pickups, who's an awesome guy. I don't know if you guys have talked to him yet, but
I actually gave him some samples of some of my parts that I have manufactured. I own some molds. So I'm not sure. He hasn't called me about it or responded, but I was walking around NAMM with some of the stuff I make and just kind of offering something a little better than the norm.
That's come up
Nice.
a couple times. So yeah, probably reach out to him, or maybe we can talk offline about that. But
Yeah.
see if we can get him on the show.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So, aside from the Mr. Porter's pickups, you've established yourself as in the modern playing realm, and I think some of your designs are decidedly geared towards that. But for someone who's looking for a guitar that looks and feels and plays specifically for that kind of playability or music, what can you tell them about like your guitars as far as why that might match up?
So I think it just comes from the fact that growing up playing guitars that maybe had softer fret wire, or not so great tuners, or a nut that wasn't cut correctly, or what have you, before I even learned how to build guitars. Going into designing my own guitars, I wanted to make sure all of those problems were never apparent or present in the guitars. So someone who's looking for a modern guitar, I would say in our guitars, you would find stainless steel frets instead of nickel frets. And that's standard across our Korean line and our USA line. Locking tuners, obviously you can get standard tuners, non-locking tuners if you wanted, but locking tuners are standard on all of our guitars, even the guitars made in China, Korea, or the US. And then finally, we use Graphtec nuts. We can make bone nuts as well if that's something you prefer. I would rather not use animal bone for nuts. That's a whole other conversation, but we use Graphtec because it's just consistent, and they're just a great company to deal with. So those three things I think really help not only tuning stability, but just like in the long-term ownership of a guitar that you're paying good money for. I feel like should be standardized appointments, at least the fret wire. So I guess that's part of it for sure.
We're talking about the fret wire, and I'm glad that you mentioned the stainless. On our last conversation, the Guitar Setup 101, Chase Gullett mentioned, if you are a little bit more aggressive with your playing, or you're, maybe a little bit more heavy-handed, which, power chords and stuff could come along, that more quote-unquote modern type of playing, that stainless would be a great way to go. Also for, touring and stuff. It's a very specific question, but your actual fret wire and the height and how you've decided you want that to be, if you're, and the setup for this is, like a Telly versus a fretless Wonder, a Gibson or something like that. Like, where did you design your fret wire for playability, or is that a factor? Or
Yeah, so getting into like the more nerdy side of the specs of the guitars, I went with medium jumbo as the fret wire size. We use Jescar medium jumbo fret wire, so stainless steel. If anyone listening is familiar with that kind of fret wire, that's what we use. But I went about using that because it's kind of a good middle ground. If someone likes jumbo frets, or if someone likes, maybe more narrow, smaller frets, it's right in the middle. So that was just a conscience or just a choice that I made that I feel like would kind of appease a wider market. But
stainless steel frets can be very galvanizing in this industry, especially amongst repairmen.
No steel pun there at all.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even think of that.
That's why I'm here.
But I mean, there's a lot of repair shops that don't even want to touch the stuff because it is tougher on your tools.
Yeah.
But in terms of wear and tear, there's probably nothing that wears better or longer than the stainless steel. But do you find that that's an issue when you're, and I'm assuming you offer that both in the ones that you're making here and the ones in Korea as options? I mean, is there any pushback from time to time from anyone about that?
No, we've gotten pretty good with the whole quality level of even the Korean guitars. So when the guitars come over, obviously they all go through our 46-point QC checklist, and part of that is checking that the frets are level, and if they are ever unlevel, we do a fret level crown and polish. But it's I can count on one hand how many times we've done that in the last few years. So on the flip side, I also do repairs locally through our shop, and it does wear on the tools. Even if you have diamond files and you go through sandpaper way quicker, but I think the payoff in the long run is way better, just for the customer or the artist. And I think maybe it was instilled in me from the beginning, because going back to what I said before about Bo from the band Seosin being our first customer and artist, he was like, I got to have stainless steel frets. And so that's what I did. And ever since then, I just kind of stuck with that because I realized, well, this dude tours a lot and he's a studio engineer and producer, and it just made sense. So, why offer anything else? And it's been a good selling point for us too. Like some people, come to us just because we offer those things as standard options.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, John DeLorean used stainless steel too on his cars.
He's just sitting on that waiting. He was like chewing his face off.
I was
That's
like,
funny.
I gotta mention John DeLorean.
So, in addition to guitars, we talked earlier that you also have at least one pedal, but I also noticed that you are making your own pickups now as an option. What are you seeing? What benefits are you seeing in making your own pickups?
Definitely being able to control exactly how I want my guitars to sound. But also I just enjoy designing the pickups that go on the guitars, whether they're the Korean or Chinese or USA guitars. I just nerd out about that kind of stuff, the thickness of the magnet, age of wire, the type of resistance, the type of magnet, all of that kind of stuff that goes into it. So it's just, one more thing for me to get my hands on and to offer to people. And that, it never was like a cost thing for me. It was more of like if I'm going to do this and my name's going to be on the headstock, I want to make sure that I put everything I can into this guitar and make it exactly kind of what I envisioned it to be. But along the line, learning about other cool pickup companies, I love what everyone does. So we try and offer as much as we can.
Awesome. Cool. Jared, wipe the drool off your face as soon as you started talking about
magnets.
That stuff. Yeah, it's like,
right.
Yeah, he needs a cigarette now. Jeez. Anyways, well, dude, I really appreciate you talking about your guitar stuff and your designs and hopes and dreams and all that stuff. I'm glad that we got to learn about Balaguer guitars, and everybody, please make sure that you check these out real quick because we still got a little bit left. So
take your time.
If you've been so engrossed and you were like,
take your time.
Oh my gosh, I haven't had a chance to go look at them. What is it? One more time, Joe?
It's BalaguerGuitars.com.
Perfect. All right. We're going to dial up Mr. Jared real quick here, and he's going to help us. And just forewarning, this is a really good Would You Rather.
All right, man. This one comes from our buddy James Pegler. It's a pretty unique Would You Rather, so buckle up.
I'm buckling.
Would you rather? In 1968, George Harrison asked Eric Clapton to play on the studio recording of While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, I love that song.
Clapton recorded the part using the refinished 1957 Goldtop Les Paul named Lucy that he had gifted to Harrison. During this era, Clapton used the 1964 SG called The Fool for its psychedelic paint job, like the relic blades in the Song of Roland. Which epic acts would you rather make weep?
Ooh.
Okay, so to defragment that a little bit, you got Clapton's playing the Fool, normally, but then for this one he played Lucy. All right, so you got
That's how it goes.
you are Clapton. Imagine yourself as Clapton. You can choose Lucy or the Fool. I think that's yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which one would you rather make weep?
Now, the
I like that how he signed that
The
off.
1964 Gibson SG is still one of their absolute best versions of that guitar. It has the longer nut at the end, the nut width. It has the pre-T-top patent number PAF pickups.
Okay.
It's very light. It's a very good guitar. All nickel hardware. Great guitar. Anyway, go ahead. I know you're going to cut this out. So.
I'm not. That's great. I love that you know
Let's
so
get-
much
get-
about
get
the,
a little background.
the SG. Because see, that's the fun part. Because I can't. I'm not a fan. Of
I'm a
those.
nerd about those SGs.
Yeah, but you love them. You got several of them.
Yeah.
Now and then the gold top. What year was that gold top? Did he say?
That was a 57.
57 gold top.
That's
But
another biggie.
it was stripped and done in red.
No, really, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And Joe gave an affirmative. Like you should know that, Todd.
Todd, come on, Todd, get with the program.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it. All right. Tony Baloney, what are you doing?
I'm gonna have to go with the Fool because I mean that is such. I mean, just the paint job on the guitar, the number of people's hands that it's passed through over the years. Todd Rundgren owned it for a long time. But it just looks. I mean, the Les Paul is cool, but it's not. It looks like a Les Paul. It's just it's like a plain top cherry Les Paul.
Right.
Versus the Fool, which has all that crazy graphics and stuff on it. That's my choice. I'm going with the Fool.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
Jared?
Well, I'm going to go with the 57 gold top.
Why?
Because I already know every facet of what a 1964 SG plays like. I know everything about those guitars.
Yes.
Well, there's always a bigger fish, so I'm not saying I'm the most knowledgeable. However, I know enough.
Yes. I think you displayed that.
Get me that.
like-
Yeah, you're right. Get me that. I'm a nerd. I admit it. I love the SGs. Get me the 57 gold top. I don't care if it was refinished. Give me the 57 all day, every day.
Refinishing takes half the value away from the guitar.
Me no care none. Me want 57.
All right.
I'll take that one.
Joe, how about yourself?
Well, I'm usually a Les Paul guy over an SG, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the SG. Just the way it looks and the fact that it's been played by so many people, and I'm gonna have to go with the SG. It's just too cool looking.
It is.
Yeah.
Todd,
It's lighter too.
you going to play a Strat, Todd?
Yeah, I'll take the Strat.
Hey, take Jimi Hendrix Strat that he played at that pop festival.
Nope.
That's
pretty
not on the Would You Rather.
That
I
pop
know.
festival.
Yeah, that
You know,
The
Monty Python
gig
pop
he did.
cool.
festival.
The one where he burned it, and he did some sort of thing with his hand.
With
The thing with the
The
fire.
show.
You know,
the played the musics.
the thing.
Anyways.
He strummed the strings.
Yeah, everybody's all familiar with it. So I'm going to go with the SG.
Whoa!
I am. For that same reason. You can't, I mean, that kind of provenance, you can't pass up an opportunity to just go, yep, my fingerprint is now on that in some way. And I think you would be able to somehow coax a little bit of like deeper mojo out of yourself for that. Not out of the guitar. I'm not saying the guitar is magic, but whenever when you have something that's special,
Yeah.
you tend to extend yourself a little bit more. So that's what I would be hoping to do.
I mean, I own an SG 2 years previous to 64, and it's probably my most
How
favorite
many
guitar.
SGs do you have?
I don't know, but that's probably my
Several.
He knows.
That's on
He
top
knows.
of the
Yes.
guitar list right there.
Yeah.
It is such a great guitar.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyways,
Well, you can now welcome to your own island, like I usually am.
Yeah.
You know, with your Les Paul.
That
I'll
was
take the Les Paul.
That was
I
a
mean,
great question, James Pegler. Thank you for shooting that on this George
Forum.
Harrison's birthday.
You couldn't go
Or
wrong
that.
with those choices. That's what was cool about that. Would you rather?
Yeah, that
was
it
great.
wasn't choosing the better of the worst. It was choosing the
Better of the best.
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'd say that.
Tony, we have one more thing to do before
Yes, we do.
wrap this up.
We do. We have
Can
to.
you-
We have to thank a special group of people.
Yes,
These would be our executive producers.
correct, Amundo.
Now, there would be someone out there, I'm sure. Todd, you're probably wondering, what is an executive producer? And B, how do I become one?
Correct.
I'm going to direct these people, this person, over to pickguardian.com. Yes,
And
go
then
ahead.
read it loud. Right.
Patreon.
You shifty, no good, dirty rat.
Send me the money.
Yes.
Go to
Marketing genius you are.
yeah, it was. Patreon.com/the guitar knobs. And you'll see a couple of different levels in which you can participate. And each level comes with its own bevy of fine prize
I
packages and
just sent out a
swag.
whole bunch of them.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. So, you get things like picks and stickers and barefoot buttons and T-shirts and
all the stuff.
Who's its and what's its and all
Yeah.
those things. But there's a level that you can participate in.
Yeah.
There's actually a second level.
Within that level.
A level within a level.
Yes.
And both
Within
levels.
wrapped in a conundrum.
Yes.
Yeah.
The executive producer level.
Nice.
And in addition to all that great stuff that you get for being an executive producer, the picks and the
We already talked about all that.
All
stuff.
that
What
stuff.
do you get?
get
there's
that-
one thing special.
That's right.
And Jared, what is that?
Get to have your name read on the
You
thing.
get your name read on the thing.
Go for it.
And we did talk previously about this level within a level.
Yeah.
So within the executive producer level, we have who we've coined our grand poobahs.
That's correct.
Our fez wearing
They each
brethren.
got their own fez.
Everybody has a fez now. So let's just go through those, shall we?
I want to hear those names.
You want to hear those names? Why did
I
my
do.
phone do this? It just freaked out on me. There it is.
There's the list.
So I would like to thank this group of grand poobahs. Tommy Manasco, Sean S., Cody Foster, Cody Lane, David Kaminga, Corey Nigro, and Jonathan Jerusik.
Yes.
A tip of the fez
They
to
are
our
all
brethren.
in the Grand Poobahs.
Absolutely.
But let's not forget our executive producers.
No,
No,
we
not for
cannot.
a moment.
We
Let's
love you
go.
too.
Backbone of our show.
They are
That's
the
right.
backbone. And some of these folks, I've been reading their names for so long, I don't even need this list.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm going to start from our eldest to our newest.
Okay.
Mr. Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, John Daly, Chris Kearney, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Michael Van Zant, Ken Sayers, Brian Robison, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Johnny Knowles, Anthony Lathrop, John Anglin, Tyler Bray, Brad Partridge, Ty Harmon, Chris Heidel, John Esterly, Tim Nowak, Doug Gann, Justin Jones, Steve Keys, and Brett Alexander.
All right.
Thank you, each and every one of you.
What
and
a
if I
great
didn't
list.
read your name and you are participating as a patron in
We
Patreon,
thank you as
we
well.
thank you
Yeah.
as well.
All of the supporters. I am truly honored and blown away every time I get any interaction with the patrons, and I'm so thankful for them.
Thank you.
All right. Joe, remind everybody one more time where they can find you.
Yes, sir. It's just www.balaguerguitars.com or just at Balaguer Guitars on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Hit him up. Find out more about his stuff. Get yourself a fantastic guitar, and he will be happy, and we'll be happy.
Everybody will be happy.
Tony, where can people find you?
Go over to pickguardian.com and you can see some of the things that I offer available for order online. If there's something that you need that isn't available for online ordering, just shoot me an email and I will take care of you personally. You can go over to Instagram at pickguardian and the number 1 and see some of the projects we've been talking about.
Jared?
Oh, yes. If you're in need of pickups, if you need a pickup rewound, or if you need anything of that sort, new pickups that are old looking or any crazy
Noiseless
crap
Jazz
like that.
Masters?
Yeah.
Noiseless
I am.
P90s?
Yeah.
I figured those out. Well, the Noiseless P90, that's a Lindy Fralin thing, but
Yeah.
I do those too, but
Yeah.
anyway, check out my Instagram too. I am posting a lot of rewinds, and I have a video that I just posted. Check that out. So yeah, fun stuff. If you need anything or have any questions, give me a call or email.
All right.
Yep.
You can drop me an email. I'm going to use correct English. An email. Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram. We would love to hear your stories, how the show might be playing a part in your guitar life, as well as your would you rathers, like the one that we got from James Pegler tonight.
Yep. Send them in, people.
Awesome. Joe, we thank you for your time and for the work that you're doing, the products you're making, and the passion that you're putting into it.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was great talking.
You bet. Everyone else, have a fantastic guitar week and subscribe.
Yeah.
That sounds like a medicated shampoo, doesn't it?
Can you
be
shave
good.
real quick?
Great. It works a lot better if you're naked.
No.
Okay.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.